To get started, we're going to start with the stamp. So we're going to use the stamp and matching die to give us the piece that we need for the stencil and the butterflies that are detailed, that are going across the front of the card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my press to impress, and I've got a standard piece of stamping card here. So this is just a standard piece of 300 GSM sort of stamping card, quite plain. And I've got the stamp. The stamp is an A6 size, so it will fit twice on a piece of A5 card. However, for this, as we want to use this as a stencil, we're going to put it in the middle of a bigger piece so that we've got a little bit of space all the way around. So we're just going to put that down to the lid, and then I'm going to ink the stamp. Now I'm going to use the new Craft Artist Moonlight pigment ink palette. This is a pearlized pigment ink palette, so you get a beautiful pearl sheen from your inks. And all I'm going to do is just literally randomly stamp across the stamp. A little bit of card there, so we'll take that away. And I'm using the sort of greeny colour to start with. Then I'm taking the blue, and I'm going to put that on, because these are the 3 or 4 colours that I'm going to be using inside the actual stenciling. So we'll put some of that on. And then I'm just going to trail a little bit of the gold over as well. So don't worry, you won't be able to see where you've actually inked fully on the stamp, but that's why we use a stamp press, because I'll be able to see the areas that I've missed and fill those in. So we can see there, it's quite pale in that centre. So where the centre is, I'm just going to now ink. I'm going to be using this sort of purpley blue colour. So we're just simply going to stamp that on, give that a good press down in the centre. And I don't feel I've got enough gold on, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the gold here along that butterfly, shall we? I'm going up here. So you can just keep building up layers until you're happy that you've got a really nice stamped image. And it's a great way, and the stamp press allows you to actually get different colours on a stamped image without having to get it right first time. So you can see there now, I've got that gold wafting through, which is really, really nice. And I've made sure all of the butterflies, which you won't notice as much at the moment, have actually got different colours going across them. So I'm just going to remove that from the stamp press. And then I take the matching die. And the die is really easy to line up. You literally look through the die and find the butterflies. So you can see them perfectly. Just make sure you're nice and in the nice place. And then tape that down. Just like that, and we're simply going to cut that through. So I've now cut these out, and as you can see here, I've got this beautiful background piece, which again, you could put another piece of card against and use that for something else. We're going to use it as a stencil, but I've still got all that detail. But what I also get then are the beautiful butterflies. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 individual butterflies that have all been stamped with different colours going across them. So you can see there, they're beautiful. All I've done already is I've just put a little glue dot on the back of them so they're easy to put on. So what I've actually created now is I've created myself a stencil. So I'm going to take another piece of plain white stamping card, and I'm just going to put the stencil down, and I'm going to use my Craft Artist blending brushes. So I'm just going to take one of these, and these are really soft and perfect for this. Certainly when you're blending through card, because they don't create issues or problems. We'll take the green off, and I'm just going to ink my brush by rubbing it over the top with the ink. And I'm going to go through, and again, I'm trying to get the idea of the colours swirling. So that's my green. I'm going to take another brush, and I'm going to go with my sort of darker blue colour, I think. And again, just load the brush up. And this time I'm sweeping a little bit of blue through, and you're looking, it looks at first as if you're not achieving anything, but you actually are. The colour is really going down. So once I've done the blue, I'm simply going to take another brush and I'm going to add some highlights of the gold. So again, just rubbing the brush head on the top of the ink pad, so easy with these petals, so I'm not having to hold an obscure ink pad size, and just sweep across a little bit of gold. If I want anywhere to be quite intense with the gold, then I can just add it. And again, it looks quite subtle, but it's when you remove the stencil. You see now I've got those beautiful ethereal butterflies. So all I would do is move my stencil, put it in a different location, and rinse and repeat. So now I'm going to go through with a little bit of green again. So make sure you keep each brush whilst you're doing this for one particular colour. It just makes it easier and stops you getting them muddy. A little bit of blue. And then finally, a little bit of the gold. And don't worry, you'll find on this butterfly that that's very fine there. If you can see, it's quite fine, so it will move or break off. Doesn't matter. We're giving a beautiful background. So I take that off. You can see now I've got that crowd of butterflies. So all I'm going to do is continue to do that by rotating the sheet, putting butterflies in different directions, and again, simply inking through. So join me in a couple of seconds when I've got this piece finished. So now all I'm doing, I'm just taking whatever ink's left on the brush that's got the gold and it's got some of the colours in, and I'm just putting a few sort of little shadows of butterflies around, just to make sure that I've got almost like a little shadow filling all the paper. And you're not trying to look for a specific design. What you're actually trying to do is to just fill the paper with like a random host of butterflies. So hopefully you can see there, I've got a really nice sort of random mixing of butterflies in there. And of course the stencil you can use again, or again you could put that against a plain piece of card or a white piece of card and get a really different look. So that's not wasted. So we've made our background piece and we have our butterflies in flight. So now we need to start making up the card and making up the frames. So to do this, I'm going to use the press cut notched squares, and I want to start with a frame. So what I'm going to do is go forward and I'm going to take one of the decent, so I've taken size 3 and I'm putting it in the center of the card, and I'm just going to tape that down, and then I'm going to go forward 4 more. So if I've taken number 3, so I'm going to miss number 4, number 5, number 6, and I'm going to take number 7. And I'm just going to evenly put that on to give me a nice frame. Now, if you're unsure about your framing, you can use the dies in between. So if you simply lay down, so take down the first die, the largest die, okay, and then place the next ones in the series in, and that will give you a nice even framing. So I'm placing those in. Obviously we don't want to cut these, but can you see there, that allows me then to get this center one framed right. So once I'm happy that I've got it all framed nice and straight, nice and even, I'm simply going to tape down that central die and take the extra 3 out, and I get that nice even frame all the way around. And then all we need to do is to cut that through. So I'm simply going to cut that. So we'll actually run this through so that you can see it. So I'm using an A4 machine, which you will need for this technique. And what I'm going to do is I want to offset that and I want to frame it nicely. So what I'm going to do is I've got a piece here. This is the Crafts 2 satin card that comes in the Crafts 2 satin and gloss pack. And this colour is spring green, and it just matches beautifully with the soft green we've used for the inking, but also with that little bit of gold because it's got that sheen to it, but it's not so in your face because it's satin. So you see here, I take this one out. quite simple. And we'll take this one out. We want to keep this panel because this is now our central panel. So we'll just tear that one off. There we go, put to one side. I've torn the paper a little bit, which is quite unusual. Doesn't matter because we can put a butterfly over that. So now all I'm going to do is to put this down to the satin card and just tape it down for stability. And then I'm simply going to go up. So I used at first die number 4. It's worth sometimes keeping them out. So I want to use now die number 3. So I'm going out until I find the correct matten layer. So I place that down on the card, making sure it's in the right place. And I just tape that down. And then I go in one on my die set again and place that in the right place so that I've got that evenly. Now I'm just going to pull this one out because I've got the tape there. There we go. Let's move that tape. Okay. I'm going to tape that down and just make sure I'm happy that that gives me a nice border all the way around. And then I'm going to take that piece out. And we will then simply cut this one. And again, I want to show you how it cuts. So we just run that one through because we're going to go another stage as well. So what I want to bring in now is another piece of the white stamping card. So I've got this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go one size further out again. So I'm just going to start by taping the largest die, which is die number 1 from the set down. Then I'm going to bring in, so we'll just let this one drop out. There we go. Pop that to one side for the minute. I'm going to pop in the frame again and make sure it's in the right place. And your set should be in the right order. So I'm just taking the next one down again and I'm popping that into that space there. And again, we'll just tape both of those down for safety. And we simply remove that one. Again, I'm going to run this through my machine. And I'll show you how we mount these ones while I'm doing that. So we're just going to run that through really simply. Okay. You can see here, this is the frame I cut in the green. This is the frame in the pattern. Can you see it fits exactly? So we'll take the white frame, which is the last one that we've done. And you can do this in any size. You don't have to go quite so large, but it allows you to take something that's quite small as the A6 stamp and the butterflies and create a much larger sort of 8x8 card with that. So you can see here, this is the white frame, this is the final one. So I lay that down. The green goes on top, and you can see there I've created the perfect set of frames. So I'm going to foam mount these, and I want to show you how I do this because you want to keep things in place. So what I'm going to do is turn this over, so I'm flipping it. I'm going to take some of the tape and I'm simply going to tape it, but I'm going to keep it in position. So I'm using a 2mm deep foam tape as it gives me a nice little bit of definition, but doesn't make the finished card too thick. But can you see, normally I'd be turning the frame. This time I'm not. What I'm actually doing is I'm turning myself, so I'm keeping it in position. So there we go, we've got that all nicely loaded. And then I'm going to grab my fine tip glue applicator. Again, a brilliant new Crafts 2 product. I use so little glue now compared to what I used to use when I used a big thick bottle. And what I'm going to do is, to help this stick on and make it move a little bit, in case I get it wrong, I'm just going to add some little dots of glue, there we go, on the foam tape. And this gives me that little bit of wriggle room and that little bit of time to move things about. You must make sure when you're using the fine tip glue, you put the pin back in. So move these back in. You see now, I've just got time to move that around, check all 4 aspects, and that's nice and even. So all I do is the same again. So I flip that over. I take some of my foam tape. Really, I should cut this. I shouldn't actually be tearing it. There we go. And once the same again. So I'm going to remove the tape, and again, I'm using the 2mm tape, so I get a nice bit of definition, but it's not too high on the finished project. So we just take this off. There we go. And again, take your fine tip glue applicator. You only want little dobs of glue. You don't want it to come squidging out. So I'm just adding 3 little drops on each piece of the foam tape, again to give me that wriggle room. Put my pin back in to keep my glue sealed, and I'm going to flip it over, and again I've got the time then to move that round and make sure I'm happy in 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. And you can see there I now have the perfect frame. So I've framed that, I've got the butterfly shadows going all the way over it. Now for the center, we're going to bring back in the piece that got cut out. And of course, because we've framed it over, that will fit in and no one will know that we've not used another piece of card. So again, I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to add some foam tape to stick this, but you must be careful where you place this. So the foam tape needs to run right next to the aperture. So you can be quite arbitrary when you're putting the frames together, but for this, you want to have them running right by the edge, because obviously we're gluing in a lot smaller piece. And even if it just catches the edge, it will be perfect. Let's just take a slightly larger piece. There we go. And again, just take off our protective tape. And again, a little bit of glue, but just remember where your card is this time. So, and this is why we want to be careful that we only use tiny little dots, because you don't want this squelching out onto the front and spoiling the work you've done on the front of the card. So again, pin back in, and then bring this into place. Get this nice and straight. You can use your mat to help with that. And then we're going to take the frame over, and we're just going to carefully pick up the piece. And you can see there that on the back, it's left a little bit. Doesn't matter in the slightest, because what we've actually achieved is it's perfect from the front. And I've got a little bit of a mark there from the tape. So I'm just going to use my Crafts 2 glue eraser to take that little mark off. And there we have our framed piece. So next we're going to finish our card. So to finish our card, what I've got here is a plain simple 8x8 card blank. Obviously you can make the size wherever you want, but that gives the perfect size for that just to sit onto. I could trim it down slightly if I wanted to, but I quite like that going there nicely in the center. So what I want to do is, I've got exposed tape here. So one of the best ways to deal with that is to actually adhere the frame to the card using more of your foam tape. So I'm just covering over those 2 pieces. I'll put them in similar places in the center, a little bit in the middle to stop it sagging, as this is the center of our card. And across there we go. And again, I'm just going to take the tape off. And the centerpiece just stops your card sagging. There's chances that it won't, but it just helps just in case. And again, so that I can get it nice and even, a little spot of glue just to break the tension between the foam tape and the card it's going down to. And then we simply need to put that on. So make sure the card is opening right. I go for a top fold when I'm doing heavyish cards like this, as I feel it sits nicer and it's stronger and we just put that onto the middle, just like that. And it's at this point we could then add a sentiment, a little flag or whatever we want to. For this, I'm just going to add the butterflies. So here I've got the butterflies that we die cut earlier. And all I'm going to do is, I'm just going to arrange those. I've put some glue dots on already, just to make this a little bit quicker. Going over and sort of off the frame. There we go. In different directions. Let's finish with that one, shall we? I'm not actually sure if I want that there. No, I think let's tuck him in, and let's tuck her in just there. There we go, you can see. And there you've got, as you saw at the beginning, a beautiful card with the same butterflies in the background that are echoed on the front, and a lovely little host of butterflies flying across the card. So really simple framing technique, but using your products to the absolute maximum. So we've used one stamp and die set and one nesting die set to create everything on that. I'll now move on to the second project. For the second project on framing, I'm going to be using the new John Next Door butterfly frame, which is the Deco butterfly frame. I'm going to show you how to match this in with your nesting dies to get the card that we showed at the beginning. So we're going to start with this one, and I've got here just again a piece of plain white card or paper, and I've actually cut this to 5.5 by 7.5 because the outside frame of this die doesn't cut out. So it cuts in, it cuts out the inside centre, but it doesn't actually cut out the outside, meaning you can frame it as large or as small as you want to. If you want to have just the fine frame, you would cut the piece to 5 by 7. So all we do is place this nicely and evenly in the centre and then tape it down. And I've just made sure that I've got a nice border running all the way around those sides. So we would cut that, and I've actually already got this cut to save a little bit of time. So you can see here, when it's cut, you've got these beautiful Deco butterflies and this sort of Art Deco framing with the squares and the rectangles around that. So what we want to do is we want to put a different colour and something exciting behind this. So I'm going to use a piece of the new Craft Artist Ombre glitter card. This is the beautiful one that goes from sort of a blue into a yellow through green. I just love the way these mix. And I want to use this portion here, but again, I don't want to waste the card. So I'm going to move my frame out of the way, and I'm going to bring in 2 rectangular nesting dies. Now, these are the press cut nesting dies. These are mathematically correct. So this one here is exactly 5.25 by 7.25, meaning the piece will fit behind there. And I want a nice matten layer, so I've gone up one size again with the larger piece. So I've actually gone on this one 5.75 by 7.75, so that I get a nice matten layer, because I don't want to waste the card. And this is a trick that I use an awful lot. When I've got something like this and I don't want the colour there, I want to have this main move of colour. So I select the section of the card that I want, but by cutting it down I waste the card. By placing this in, I give myself a matten layer and looks like I've used another sheet when I haven't. And this will make sense when I put it together. So I'm just going to take that piece down. I'm going to put this piece evenly inside. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit off at all, but it just, I like to give just a little bit of a border. So we've got that piece there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this, and I want to cut this and show you how this cuts and what we do and what the piece that we've got left. So I'm just going to run that through my machine. And while that's running through, you can see here I've got my frame, and what I actually did was I moved it around and said, oh look, the blue at the top and the yellow at the bottom really works in this frame. If I went that way, I'm not really seeing much of an ombre change. So that's why I've gone that way onto the card. So if I bring in the piece now that's just cut, we'll take this out of the machine. We can see here that I'll take the dies away. And again, if you haven't got the press cut dies, you can use something similar. Just check the sizing on it, as the Crafts 2 ones, the press cut ones, were the first ones to be mathematically correct and work every 1/4 of an inch. So what we've got here is, I've got this piece, which again, I can use for another mat and layer. So I can use this piece, it's not wasted, it's not scraps. But I've got this piece here, which is a beautiful little frame, which I could use to frame on top. I'm going to use it behind. And I've got this piece, which you can see now fits exactly behind that frame. But what I want to do is, I want to be able to see through this frame. So I take another of the press cut dies, and I've got one here, and I'll get the measurements of this for you. So this is 2 3/4 by 4 3/4. And everything that I do is sized to fit with everything else. But this will take an aperture out of that, which will fit behind there. So what I do is place this roughly in position, take my frame and place that over the die, and just move that around until I'm happy that it's roughly in the right place, because there is a little bit of give in this. So we're just going to tape this down well, because I want this in the set place. So we've got that, and I'm simply going to run this through my die cutting machine. So we're going to run that one through, and while we're running that through, for speed, I'm going to glue this on with a spray glue. However, one of the other things that we've got in this set is a plain butterfly that fits behind these, and it allows me to alternate the colour. If I show you at the moment, so we take this piece out, and we're just going to pop this into place. You can see there how that fits. Can you see it misses a little bit, and those butterflies don't stand out. So what I want to do now is to use the solid butterfly, and I'm going to bring in the extra card I got left and just see where, if anywhere, I can put it on there. So I can fit one there, that's kind of perfect. So I'm just going to snip that out. And this die was designed so that, there we go, you see there, I can fit one there, so I'm getting the most out. So this die was designed so that you can cut through 2 layers at once, which is why you only get 1 in the set, because if we put 2 in, it would cost more for you. So I'm just going to put that in. I'm going to put that on, make sure that's roughly in the right place. So I'm going to cut 2 together. So I'm just taping those 2 pieces of card together. And because I'm going through 2 layers, I'm going to put that at the side of my machine where I've got the most tension. And we're just going to run that through. So I'm just running that piece through. And what I'm going to do while I'm doing that is, as I said, for speed, I'm going to use spray glue. You don't have to do. You can actually just use a standard wet glue if you want to on there. But spray glue just makes it work that little bit better. I'm just going to get a top for my spray glue. There we go. Because I'm going on to glitter card, I'm going to give it a couple of coats. Really simple, but it helps for speed on this one. And I'm using Craft Mount by 3M, which I found to be the strongest. So I'm going to put this on sticky side up. I'm then going to take my butterflies, and you can see here, with a little bit of pulling, both of those have cut. So I've managed to get 2 pieces cut in 1 pass. And I'm going to take one and place it over one of the butterflies. I'm going to take the other one and place it over the other, and they'll fit exactly. So when I turn that over, you can see now I have a yellow butterfly on one side and a blue on the other. So I'm going to bring my paper in with the ombre and rotate them so that the yellow is showing over the blue and the blue is showing over the yellow. And by using the spray glue, it gives me the chance just to move the lines and make sure everything is beautifully adhered down and I get things straight. So you can see now what I've got is a beautiful frame that goes from blue through to yellow, but has a blue butterfly on one corner and a yellow butterfly on the other. Really simply done. And we can then decide what we want to go into the centre. And I'm actually going to put one of the John Next Door simple stencil sentiments in the centre. So here I've brought in my stencil sayings set. I'm always getting the names wrong. So I want to put one of these in the centre. So we're going to go with a nice thank you. I think that will really go with this. And I'm going to take the piece of waste from the centre. So I'm using no more. At the moment, we're on half a sheet of white card and one A4 sheet of the ombre glitter card. And I'm simply going to place this into the centre of that piece. Again, tape it down. And this has all the work done for you. So it's got thank you and it's got little butterflies and little flowers that punch out of it. So all we're going to do is to run that through our die cutting machine. So once again, it's quite detailed. So I'm running it on the side, which is where I'll get the best cut. And we're just going to run that through our die cutting machine. So I'm just going forward and reversing this in my machine. So we'll bring in our piece. And we'll take this out, and you can see there that I've got my thank you. So I'm just going to take my little brush and go over and take any sort of stray pieces away. When you're cutting this non-shed glitter card, you may find it grabs that little bit more because of the top coating. So all you need to do is you may need to go in with your pokey tool, certainly on the fine detail, and just take all of those pieces out. So as you can see, I've just taken all of the pieces out. You've got these little butterflies here, which you can lift up. So these don't cut out completely. These are designed to lift up. So all I'm doing is bending the card, popping my nail underneath it. You could use a pokey tool if you want to, just to pull them up. I actually find it a lot easier using my nail just to fold them over so they pop up. So all we need to do now is to start to construct the card. So what I've got here is a card blank, and this has been cut to 6 by 8. Really simple. And I want to put this frame on. You can see by cutting this, I've actually got the perfect finish for it. So I'm just going to take, again, a little bit of spray glue. Make sure I get the right spray glue. Again, I'm doing this for speed. You could use a wet glue, or you could use something like the power tape. I wouldn't use a standard finger lift tape because it's just not strong enough, and that's when your cards can start to fall apart. So I'm just putting this onto the card blank, and it makes it look as if I've made this card blank out of the ombre glitter card. It feels like you've used a lot more than you have. So what I need to do now is to just frame this. So I'm going to take a little bit of the double-sided adhesive tape, and if you see, I'm running this around the aperture to give me a nice level of lift. Take some off the roll, it's a little bit quicker. So really simple. And then I can add a couple of little pieces of support in the corners just to make sure that it's supported at those corners as well, but I don't need to go round twice. So just going to remove the protective tape from the double-sided adhesive tape. Really simple. and again. So I place it in the right place. A little bit of glue and a little bit of wet glue, just very fine dots, which is why I'm using the Crafts 2 Precision Tip bottle, to be fair, which is all I use for gluing now. I don't use the large bottle anymore. And then we'll just make sure we put our thing back in. We're going to turn our card to the side, and if you can see here, I've got the yellow to the blue, so I want to rotate it round so that the colour is changing all the time. Can you see there, it goes yellow to blue, yellow to blue. So I'm keeping that sort of washing of colours. I've then got my piece to put in, and really, really simple. I'm going to give this another spray with spray glue. Again, with more time, I would use a wet glue with this. And all I'm going to do is slide it under that piece there, because this will fit in exactly. Slide it underneath that one, and we just press it down. Just going to use my pokey tool to get it underneath that little edge there. There we go, let's get that right. Okay, give it a good press down, pop up my butterflies, and you can see that I've changed the colour direction again. So we've got yellow, blue, yellow. It looks as if you've cut that into another piece. So we've got there a beautiful, simple, framed ombre glitter thank you card. And you could change the sentiment in the middle, you could put some stamping in there, but it creates a beautiful frame. So we've made this beautiful butterfly card here with the Deco frame, and this framed butterfly card here. And hopefully that's given you lots and lots of ideas of what to do and how to do framing, and some basic techniques like making sure that you get everything even, or playing around and using the dies that you've got. So to create these, I've been using the new John Next Door butterfly collection, which is the Deco butterfly collection, the frame and the Deco butterfly stamp and die set. I've used the press cut notched square dies, I've used the press cut plain rectangle dies, and I've used the John Next Door sentiment sayings. I'm always getting that one wrong in there, along with glue tape, foam tape and glue and everything like that. But hopefully that gives you some great ideas.